go to Pasadena, California. Good morning, Democratic caller.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. Mr. Johnson, I recently saw William Black from the University of Missouri, Kansas City, on a show, and it was such an eye-opener because I have to be honest with you, I'm an Obama supporter, but I just don't trust Geithner and Summers. These are the people that were hardcore deregulators. And Mr. William Black brought something up. He said most people don't know that under Paulson, through the back door, went to AIG, paid our taxpayer dollars, gave UBS $5 billion, and Goldman Sachs $12.9 billion. Then we fined UBS $780 million. So we're still on the losing end. And he wrote a book, he said, called The Best Way to Rob a Bank. And he said, we already have a law on the books, and I didn't get the rest of the law, Prop something law, on the law that allows us to shut down these banks. And his contention was that Geithner, Summers, and all these guys knew, they're all inner circle, it's sort of this incestuous group of elites. And he said they're really covering for the banks, and we have no idea what the real damage is. And he said that they just keep covering for them and dumping more money into them. And I'd like your comment about this.
Well, I'm trying to be positive about the Obama administration. I voted for the president, and I like that general approach. I think they've made good progress on some issues. I would share some of the concerns you have about the people in charge of the financial rescue policy in particular. I think other parts of the economic policy are being handled rather well under the circumstances. I think we have to see what they do, and we have to see how they respond to criticism. And I would say, as a point in their favor, while acknowledging the points you're making, that they have seemed somewhat responsive. I think what Secretary Geithner was saying yesterday indicates they're listening to some of the criticism. And I know there's a debate within the administration, actually within the White House, with different points of view being put forward on these kinds of things. And I think everyone should in the country should articulate their views through contacting your political elected representatives, or starting your own blog and writing about these issues, or looking at my blog and putting comments on that on baselinescenario.com. There's many different ways to articulate your views, and I think it's very important that the administration hear from you about your view on the economics, your view on the fairness, your view on the social justice of what's happening.
Is it practical to think that this president, or any president really, could have a Treasury Secretary or a Federal Reserve Chair, top economic advisors that didn't have some sort of connection to Wall Street?
Well, of course, Ben Bernanke, the chairman of the Fed, is an academic. He has substantial experience. He's worked on lots of different aspects of monetary policy and financial policy. He's one of the world's leading experts on the Great Depression and hopefully on how to avoid it. He's never worked on Wall Street. He had a 60 Minutes interview a few weeks ago where he very clearly articulated, that where he's coming from and the town. They toured the town where he grew up, and you saw the building where his family pharmacy was.
Right.
And I think that's good to have him in there. Intellectually, I think he's very strong, but also from a point of view of not being a Wall Street person.
Let's hear from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Good morning, on our Republican line. Hi there.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Simon, I have truly enjoyed your comments today. I think they're superb. And I do have one question, and that is, it seems to me when you're talking about effectively punitive taxation on banks if they get too big, that would make sense if they weren't global. Basically, if you put punitive taxation on American banks if they become too large, guess what? They're going to move their stuff offshore, and I do not see the world agreeing with this. There's always somewhere that's going to be playing. And one quick comment before you answer it. The example of the buffalo being attacked by the wolves, I love that, except they've got it backwards. The buffalo is any independent business at this day and age. The wolves are government entities. What terrifies me, Simon, is I see 6 to 9 months, the perfect storm of hyperinflation, because governmental entities are forced to raise taxes in many cases because their retirement funds for employees, blah, blah, have taken such a hit, and they have to bring them back up to speed. I think California is an example of taxing yourself into obsolescence right now. And I'm going to end with one real quick thing that just happened here in Pennsylvania, which appalls me. we have discovered a major natural gas pool in Pennsylvania. Last week, the Pennsylvania legislature agreed to raise fees for drilling by 26 times. I have talked to two individuals who are closing down their drilling companies because there's no possible way to ever make a profit. This is what terrifies me. This is where I see the perfect storm of gross overtaxation forcing businesses out of business. I will hang up and listen to your call. Thank you.
Thanks, Pittsburgh.
Let me respond to two things. First of all, on our buffalo and wolves metaphor, which seems to be taking on a life of its own. To me, the buffalo is private independent business, but the wolves are big business. Think about that. Right? Why are your taxes going to go up? Why is the government having to take these measures? Because of the mistakes made by big business. Why have they made these huge mistakes? Because they became far too powerful. And now they're trying to stick the rest of us with the bill. Right? So think about large business versus small business. And with regard to your point about financial services moving overseas, which of course is right, if we put a big tax on bigness, I'd say two things. First of all, fine. If these banks that are capable of making these kinds of mistakes want to go overseas, and someone will take them, you know, I don't think you really want to keep that business anymore. It's far too dangerous. Secondly, I would say more seriously that the G20 exists is beginning to exist as a heads of government organization precisely to address this kind of issue. So you don't actually want our major trading partners to have massive vulnerabilities in their financial systems either, and we all need to get together to regulate and to break up these massive banks. And I can assure you this is going to be a much harder conversation with the Europeans than even in this country.
Simon Johnson, you can read his article, The Quiet Coup, online at Atlantic.com, and check out his website, BaselineScenario.com. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you.